and welcome to the latest edition of Upon Further Review. I am Butler Eagle sports writer Derek Pida. I am your first-time host, so you got to take it easy on me here. We would like to first recognize our sponsors, which include Conlon Tarker, Troy Allen Chevrolet Buick GMC, Penn United Technologies, and Butler Health Systems. I am flanked on my right by Butler Eagle sports editor John Enrietto, and on my left by Eagle sports writer Mike Kilroy. Guys, we had some interesting games in week 5, interesting results. Seneca Valley goes down to North Allegheny and loses a slugfest. Knock loses a game that not many people thought they would lose to a struggling Montour team. North Catholic gets back on track. John, what stuck out for you most about our week 5 schedule?
Well, 2 games really, and you just mentioned 2 of them. The Montour Knock game. I don't know about you guys, but I did not see that loss coming for Knock. They were just coming off back-to-back victories. Looked like they were getting their act straightened out with their triple option offense, which they did do. They did score 33 points, but to give up 35 to a Montour team that only scored 17 in the first 5 games, all losses for Montour, I just didn't see that one coming at all. And it's a tough loss for the Knights. And the other game would be, even though it was a loss for Seneca Valley, I thought if you can have a loss that's impressive. That's it. If you lose this, North Allegheny had been rolling people. Their closest game going into that game last week was 24-point differential. Seneca Valley took them, played them toe-to-toe for 4 quarters, lost to 10-6. As you mentioned, they're a defensive slugfest. Those 2 games stand out for me.
Mike, how about you?
For me, it's Knock. You have to start with Knock. You have to start with the disappointing loss to Montour. We all sat here last week and said, "Oh, Knock's going to win this game. They're going to roll. They're going to go into that Newcastle game. Needing that win to make the playoffs. Now their road is much tougher. Mm-hmm. Now they have to beat someone other than Newcastle, and I don't think there's anyone in that section that they play that they can't beat at this point. Sorry, Knock, but you got South Fayette. Just don't see that happening. It's going to be one of the games they're going to have to win. It's sad too because Knock, like we said, seem to have turned it around, and then they have this hiccup, and it might really destroy something that looked like what they were building towards, something good.
Yeah, I sat in this very chair last week and said there was no way in my mind that Montour could even make that a game. And they scored 35 points. I know. So it's official. I'm a clown. I know nothing.
I'll tell you what.
I should have. I think I got rid of it.
Get out of mothballs.
Yeah.
Well, what it comes down to is Knock got stung last week. Now, if they want to get to the playoffs, they have to go out and sting somebody else. They're going to have to pull an upset somewhere along the line here. Plus beat Newcastle to get in. So we'll see what happens.
We got our segment that is pretty popular amongst us 3 at least is our over/under segment, and I'm going to start off with Seneca Valley. A lot of our focus this year, we've talked about it on this show, has been Mars's defense, but Seneca Valley's defense has turned in a really impressive performance so far this year. They've allowed 50 points in 6 games. Even this past week, they lost to North Allegheny, but they went up against an NA team that averages 41 points a game and gave up 10. That's very impressive. So I'm going to put the over-under at 85.5 points this year by the end of the regular season. They've already given up 50. They got 4 games left. John, 85.5. Does Seneca Valley come under or over that for their defense this year?
I'm going to go over, and with all due respect to Seneca Valley's defense, and it is an outstanding defense. They certainly showed that last week, holding North Allegheny down to 10 points. But one of these, I'm looking at their 4 remaining games. One of those is Pine Richland, and I know Seneca held down NA, and maybe they'll do the same thing to Pine Richland. But you're talking 35 points in 4 games. If Pine Richland scores, say, 21 against them, that's 14 in the other 3. They still got, Hempfield can't score, not very much anyway. Woodland Hills is having a down year, but Norman can score. Norman can score a few points. I don't say it's going to be a lot over, but I think it's going to be over.
Mike, what say you?
Yeah, it's going to be over. Precisely for the reason that John said. Pine Richland's going to make that really hard to achieve. Like John said, if even if Pine Richland scores 21 points, you're asking a lot for Seneca's defense to hold down a couple teams in his other 2 games. Again, I hate to agree with John because I always hate to agree with John.
You don't want to agree with me,
but I think it's just going to be a shade over. I can see them giving up like 90. Maybe that's it. 90 points would be my number to have in my head.
The other note here on Pine Richland, they haven't scored fewer than 42 yet. Now, again, they haven't played Seneca Valley yet, and I get that, and I do respect their defense. I don't think they're going to score 42 against Seneca Valley, but I can see them scoring, like I say, 20 to 27 or something like that. That's going to make that off the.
That being said, Seneca's defense is very impressive.
It's outstanding.
This season.
It's outstanding, no question.
Yeah, I can see them holding Pine Richland to, like John said, 20 or so points, 21 points.
Yeah, I think.
What's your over under?
I'd have to go over there, just over. I will say that I think they're going to come in under 100 this year. I can see them coming in.
I can see that. I can see
And
that.
for a 10-game schedule, it's still less than 10 points. That's impressive.
Very impressive in high school, especially these days.
Also, our next over-under is going to also deal with points. Freeport's final 4 opponents, you have them on your sheet there: Deer Lakes, Burrell, Mount Pleasant, and Knock. 3 of those 4 teams with losing records. Those 4 teams have given up a combined 660 points this year. That's an average of nearly 29 points a game. I'm gonna up the ante just a little bit there. I'm gonna leave it at 30.5 points. Can the Yellow Jackets average 30.5 points over under for the rest of the season with those 4 opponents on their docket? John, what do you say?
Well, that's a tough one. I think I'm looking at these 3. I think that's the toughest of the 3 over-unders there. I'm going to say I'm going to go slightly under. I'm going to go under on this one. Because Deer Lakes, I think can hold them down a little bit, and I think Knock can hold them down a little bit. Burrell, Mount Pleasant, I think they'll score a number of points. But the nature of Freeport's offense, they don't really roll up big on a lot of teams. So I'm going to go slightly under that.
Mike, your opinion?
I'm going to go under 2, but again, not by much, because I don't think they have a potent enough passing game, because I think they're going to grind out a lot of these wins over these opponents. They're going to score in the 20s a lot of these games, maybe a little bit over, but average-wise, I think they're going to be a little bit under 30.
Pretty agreeable today.
It stops here.
We actually have really good points for a change.
I got the Yellow Jackets averaging over 30.5 points a game.
Ooh. You sold on Freeport.
Deer Lakes is 3-2, but their 3 wins have come against really bad competition.
They have. Yep.
I could see Freeport, scoring 35-40 in that game alone. Burrell and Mount Pleasant, you could see their record; they're bad. Knock might be able to hold them down, but I think going into that last game, I could see Freeport averaging about 40 points a game over the next three games. So
I'll say this: if Freeport puts up 40 on Deer Lakes, then they're gonna end up over. But I don't know if they can score that many on them now. But we'll see what happens.
This was actually my favorite over-under to come up with this week, because I was looking at our stats. I was trying to come up with something stat-wise for the over-under, and I found it interesting that our leading receiver this year in our coverage area is Seneca Valley's Josh McLean with just 17 catches. Several players are tied with 14, 2 from North Catholic, 2 from Seneca Valley. Does our leading receiver, by the end of the regular season, does he come up with over or under 30.5 catches? And that's not many. You see guys catching. Brian Dwork from Brookville caught 17 passes in one game 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
30.5 catches over or under, John, our leader.
I say over, and it will be Josh McLean. He'll go slightly over that by the time the season's over. The reason is I believe he'll catch a few against Woodland Hills. I think by the nature of the Pine Richland game, I think Seneca's going to have to throw the ball more in that game to stay in it, and I think McLean will get a few catches in that game. And the same with Norwood. They could get into a passing battle with Norwood also. So I'm going to say McLean goes over.
Mike?
I'm going to say under, because the question doesn't say is Josh McLean going to get over.
It says anybody.
It's anybody.
Right.
I don't think anybody is. Josh McLean or anybody else, because precisely we only have 2 teams that can show that they can throw the ball consistently, North Catholic and Seneca Valley. North Catholic's already refocused their offense on the run. That's what kind of got them back on track last week. Mm-hmm. And they have multiple receivers who catch passes every game. Seneca's the same way. They have multiple receivers who catch passes every game. They're going to spread it out. No one's going to have a big 7-reception game for anybody, neither of these 2 teams. So I think everyone comes up short.
I have to agree with Mike. Sorry, John.
Hey, that's okay.
I think
You guys are entitled to be wrong.
John's finally back to normal. He's making really bad points.
I think if Seneca Valley had 1 or 2 guys catching passes for him, number one, if that was the case, their leading receiver had more than 17 right now. I think they've got a bevy of receivers to throw to. Matt Stanger out of the backfield. One guy who's not even on this list is Luke Smith. I think he's just off the leaders. I think he's caught 13 this year. I think their passing game has enough weapons that they're going to spread it out. And as Mike said, North Catholic, I think they're going to try to focus a little bit more on the run down the stretch. They're going to pass the ball, but I think they're going to try to focus more on the run. over passing the ball. So I'm going to go under. I'm going to say our leading receiver probably ends up with 28, 29 catches.
Josh McClain, catch the football, buddy. Make me a winner. It's your ball.
Our points of discussion this week both deal with some District 9 topics. AC Valley's win Friday. They crushed Port Allegheny 34-6. That puts them at 2-4 on the season. There are only 11 Class A teams in District 9. The top 8 will make the postseason. Can the Falcon Knights finish in the top 8? Or the Falcon Knights playoff?
You would by chance have a list of those 11 teams, would you? Because I don't have that with me. It's kind of hard for me to make that call. But I will say, I know that there's some bad teams there in Singleton in that district. I'm going to say, yeah, I think they can get there. I know we're going to make our picks here in a little bit, but I think they've got a pretty good shot at winning this week. That would give them 3 wins. They only have to finish in the top 8 out of 11. I'm going to say, yeah, I think they catch the 8th spot and get in, yes.
Mike, are the Falcon Knights playoff bound?
I've said all year, this is a very sneaky team. This is a team that a lot of people probably overlook. A lot of people don't really talk about them a whole lot because they think, oh, Union AC Valley, they had a couple bad years. But you know what? I'm sold that they're pretty good. I think they get into the top 8. I think they squeeze in there because their offense is dynamic enough to do that. Luke Bowser has done a good job throwing the ball this year at times. Of course, he's been a little bit snake bitten by interceptions. They have a bevy of threats on offense, receiving and running. I think they're capable of outscoring some of these teams that are left on their schedule, including the team they're playing this week. So I think they sneak in.
I agree with.
That's 3 out of 4, by the way.
Yeah,
you agree with me. 3 out of 4. I'm just pointing that out.
It's a bad start to a week, that's for sure. I think the Falcon Knights are going to finish in the top 8. You basically have to finish better than 3 teams. Yeah. And there's 3 teams in that small school North Division: Cameron County, Sheffield, and Port Allegheny that are absolutely dreadful. Yep. Those 3 teams combined have 1 win between the 3 of them. Yeah. Union AC Valley has already beaten Sheffield. They've already beaten Port Allegheny. Not this coming Friday, but the following Friday, Union AC plays Cameron County. So I think they're going to finish. I see Union AC finishing 4-6.
Yeah, I was going to say, they got a shot at this week's game, too.
Yeah.
They got a shot.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But this week's game is against a double A team.
Yeah,
so.
well,
That actually is a segue into our next topic. 2 very real possibilities. We just talked about it. Union AC Valley is probably going to finish the regular season with a losing record. They're also probably going to finish the season in the top 8 in the district. If a school, are you in favor of a school having a self-imposed policy on finishing 500 to make the playoffs? If the district says, look, you're good enough to go to the playoffs, are you in favor of a school putting their foot down and saying, you know what, we didn't finish 500 this year? Because another school that's on the verge of that is Karns City. Mm-hmm. Karns City's 2-4. They only have 3 games left. They don't play a 10th game. To finish over 500, they have to win their last 3 games, and that includes a game against undefeated Ridgeway. Right. Are you in favor of a school kind of putting its foot down and saying, look, we have a standard, we have to meet that standard to go to the playoffs?
No, I'm not in favor of that because I think every team should be judged by its own merits, the type of season that it's having. You look at the WPI AL, and I know you don't have a choice there. If you make the playoffs, you make the playoffs. Well, I guess you can choose not to go, but nobody does that. I mean, you see teams in Whitfield making the playoffs 3-6. Sometimes you can even make it 2-7 if you win the right 2 games. If for instance we're using Karns City as an example, if they lose to Ridgeway and beat Canaan Bradford and they finish 4-5, they wouldn't go to the playoffs. So I have no problem with that, and I don't think the school should either. That's just my opinion.
Didn't the Karns City a few years ago with Conto eligible for the playoffs under 500 decide not
They did. They went 4-6 a year.
But again, I think it depends on the circumstance and what the record is. If you're 1-9 and somehow you make the playoffs, then maybe you shouldn't go. But if you're right on the cusp of 500, if you're right there, especially with Karns City, with the way they've lost some of these,
that's what I'm saying.
I think, heck, if you make it, go.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if there should be a hard, fast rule that says if you don't finish above 500, you don't go to the playoffs. Because I think you have to look at the team and
then why even have a playoff format if you're going to leave it up to the teams? District 10 does that. But District 10's that's a whole nother show we could do on District 10.
District 9 has come out. I mean, they're basically saying every AA team in the district is allowed to make the playoffs, no matter what.
They're choosing.
What the record is. I mean, you look at a team that's struggling this year like Kane. Kane has 1 win right now. Let's say they lose out. Let's say they go 1-9. I'd like to have the playoffs be something you have to attain. I don't like the idea of saying no matter what your record is, you can be outscored 300 to nothing in your regular season.
But that's extreme, though. I mean, 1-9. I certainly wouldn't opt in for the playoffs, but 4-5 in Karns City's case with a couple of really tough losses mixed in there, I don't think it'd be a shame for them to make the playoffs. I don't think it'd be a shameful move to go in.
In the district's point of view, I think they're hoping all 8 teams do go. Because if the 8th team backs out, then all of a sudden, you give the first team a bye, and then you have 3 other games played. I think they want to have
that's what they would do.
A nice rounded 4 quarterfinal playoff tournament. But
yeah, but you're also setting up that way too. I mean, if let's say all 8 teams did go, you're going to have the top team playing the 8th team, which might be that 1-9 Kane, and you're just going to have a blowout. I mean, what's the sense in that? That's what I don't get. I mean, that's why to me, you at least have to have a representative team to go into the playoffs. I mean, like 1-9, 0-10, or whatever. No, those teams have no business going.
what are Karns City's chances of winning their last 3 games? They've got the games on there. They got Kane, Ridgeway, who's undefeated. What we're going to put a percentage on? What percentage do you have Karns City finished the regular season with a 5-4 record?
I'm gonna take the weasel way out and say it's 50-50 because just precisely because of that Ridgeway game. I think they beat Kane. I think they beat Bradford. I think Ridgeway. Is that game at Ridgeway or is it at Karns City?
I believe it's at Ridgeway.
I think it's at Ridgeway.
Is that Ridgeway? Maybe we go to 48%. I think the extra 2% for Ridgeway being at home. But Karns City is very capable going to Ridgeway and winning. But if right now I'd have to say they're probably going 4-5.
4-5. John? Percentage on 5-4.
I'm sorry, Gremlins, but it's low. 15%. I mean, simply because Ridgeway is too strong. I consider it maybe 50-50 that they beat Bradford. Bradford's certainly not bad. I certainly think they'll defeat Kane, but to beat an undefeated Ridgeway team and beat a 500 Bradford team, that's been pretty solid. Those are long odds. I'm saying 15% chance that Karns City wins the 2.
I'll give the Gremlins a little bit more of a chance. I'll go 25%, but it's a tough road to hoe just because of that Ridgeway game.
Remember, I have 48%. I have the highest percent. 48.5. I'll go 48.5%.
On to our picks this week, and I want to review last week. Scoop still rolling strong with a 10-1 record last week. Now 52-10 on the season. The Bird is. John, you and I both went 10-1. We're 51-11. Mike went 9-2. He's right behind us at 50-12.
Hey, I took a chance on Wautah.
You did.
We all have 50.
We all lost the knock game.
We all lost the knock game. The game that I said Montour wouldn't even show up for. But we're all 4 of us are at 50 wins at this point in the season. That's pretty strong.
You know what, though? But one thing we should point out, though, with that Montour knock game, I know we've been maybe a little hard on Knock for losing that game. I think you do got to give a lot of credit to Lou Serra, the Montour coach, and his football team. He proved one thing. He didn't lose that team. I mean, they started off 5 straight losses, only scoring 17 total points. And to get it together and defeat a knock team that had momentum going in, that's a nice win for Montour. So I want to look at the positive from their side. That's pretty good coaching.
And they were ravaged by injuries, too. They might have gotten some of those guys back. And, maybe Knock, if they would have played him a week earlier, it might have been a different story.
Could be. That's something we'll never know. But
maybe Mike Tomlin should call Lou Serra up and get some pointers on him. Okay, on to our picks. We got Butler, and we talked, pretty much all year about Butler being able to take those small steps within games just to kind of gain some confidence with the kids. This week, it's going to be tough to do that on offense or defense. John, Butler playing at North Allegheny. Butler's 0-6. North Allegheny, of course, 6-0 undefeated. You're covering this game?
I am.
What are your thoughts going into this?
Well, Seneca Valley did a very cruel thing to Butler. They poked the bear last week and really given NA a total fight. Bogging down NA's offense. All that's going to do is get. If NA was passive towards this Butler game before the Seneca Valley game, they're not anymore. They got something to prove again after a tough struggle. They're going to roll. And I'm going to say I do think Butler ends their shutout streak. Butler's been shut out 3 straight games. I do think Butler finds the end of it this time, but I'm going North Allegheny 42-7.
We said the same thing about North Catholic a couple weeks ago. going into that Derry game about how the Bear got poked.
We
They
did.
ended up not scoring a point.
Very
This
true,
is
very
but this is a different situation. North Allegheny is clearly heads and shoulders ahead of where Butler is right now. To me, the question is Butler in that 3-game shutout streak? I think they do. I think they score at least one touchdown. But I think NA wins 49-8.
49-8.
49-8.
I got
Oh, 2 points, okay.
I got Butler losing this game 49-6. It's on the road, man. NA's just, as you said, John, you know they're going to want to get that offense back on track
Exactly.
after only scoring
Yeah.
10 points against Seneca Valley last week. So 49-6 Butler. The next game involves Seneca Valley. They're coming off that loss, and you could say that North Allegheny poked the bear last week too. With
They
Seneca
did
Valley.
indeed. They did indeed.
Seneca Valley's returning home. You know they don't want to lose 2 straight. They want to get that offense back on track. Seneca Valley's offense was held at 108 yards of offense last week. 108 yards. So you know they're going to want to get back on track against Hempfield, who's coming to Seneca Valley. I'll give my pick first on this one. I like Seneca Valley to win this one fairly easily, 37-13. Hempfield's only win this year is against a 4A Greensburg-Salem team. So, John, what do you think about this one?
And Hempfield only beat that Greensburg-Salem team by field goal, 27-24. They've lost 5 straight since then. A couple of those games were competitive. They lost by 8 to Norman. They lost by 6 to Kennebec. But yeah, I agree with you, Derek. Seneca Valley is going to be fired up. They're angry. They had a tough loss for them last week. I don't give Hempfield much of a chance at an upset here at all. I go Seneca Valley 35-10.
Like Seneca or Hempfield?
Clearly Seneca.
Hempfield, okay.
Again, the question is Hempfield going to score a point? I think they do. But Seneca, I think Seneca might have a little bit of trouble offensively in this game, so I'm going to keep it a little bit low. I think Seneca's going to win 24-5. I think Hempfield gets a safety. I'm predicting a safety.
Took me a safety. Interesting.
All right.
We should get bonus points for that. Should
I
have
should get an extra win.
Yeah.
I need it.
All right, we go on to this is the game that Knock didn't want to have to win, but after last week's loss to Montour, man, if they could pull the rabbit out of their hat in this one, it would obviously improve their playoff chances. But South Fayette coming to Knock, South Fayette has been a strong program for a long time. Their only loss this year is to a 5A Upper St. Clair team.
by 1 point.
South Fayette is undefeated in conference play. Coming to Knock to play on the grass. Number one, Mike, does the fact that the game's on grass, does that help Knock at all?
Helps them a little bit, yeah, because obviously South Fayette probably hasn't played on grass all year. I would have to venture to guess that they have no games on grass. Knock likes to keep that grass pretty high there, but
They do.
but at the same time, the height of the grass and grass can only do so much to even the playing field. South Fayette's too talented. They have too much firepower. I do think Knock's going to keep this close because basically they know this is their season. They're going to be fighting, clawing, tooth and nail in this game. But I think South Fayette still finds a way to win 28-2. I'm going to say 28-18. I think they're going to keep it close.
Hey, John.
I think that grass field only helps Knock if it becomes a muddy grass field.
It's supposed to rain Thursday.
It is supposed to rain. Yeah, if it rains, it could help. You know what they say about rain and mud in football, the great equalizer. But South Fayette, people always talk about their offense. They've also shut out 3 teams, and they've only allowed 7 points to a 4th opponent. They don't give up a lot of points. Now, the big plus for the Knights is always running that triple option. Other teams don't see it, but South Fayette has the athletes to contain it somewhat. I see South Fayette winning this game 28-14.
I like South Fayette as well. I'm going a little bit further away in the point margin, 36-14 South Fayette. Lions are just too tough of a program. Now we move on to a key game in the Northern Conference. North Hills, this is my game this week. Thank you, John. I get fed before the game.
Yes, you do.
North Hills at Mars. North Hills 4-2. Mars 5-1. North Hills has not lost in conference play yet. They're both of their losses are non-conference games. John, how do you see this game shaking out?
It depends which North Hills team comes. They have a weird schedule. Their first 3 games, they scored 119 points. The last 3 games, they scored 10 points. so I don't know what happened. I have a feeling Taylor Brennan, who I've seen play for North Hills the last couple of years, just that he's a speedster, he's a lightning bolt, he's an incredible electrifying type player. I gotta believe maybe he's hurt.
He is.
I can't. Is he hurt?
He's hurt.
I don't know what his status is for this week. That would be a big difference for North Hills. But with Brennan hurting and North Hills offense obviously struggling, I like Mars to win this game. I was impressed by the Plymouth. I saw them play down at Shaler on Saturday. They play physical brand of football. The thing that can hurt Mars is speed. I don't think Mars is a particularly fast team. Brennan, like I said, he's a lightning bolt for North Hills, but if he's hurting, I like Mars by the score of, I'm going to say 28-21. It'll be a good game, though.
Mike?
Do you know Brennan's status?
He didn't play last week, and I have not talked to Pat Carey yet this week, but he missed most of the last 3 games, and in those 3 games, North Hills has scored a grand total of 10 points.
Yeah, I know.
He's obviously
he's Mr. Everything for them. Believe me, he is.
He's obviously the difference maker in that
Yeah,
offense.
he
You
is.
look at their points before he got hurt and after. It's night and day. So it makes a difference whether he's playing or not. If he doesn't play, I think Mars defense can contain everybody else. If he does play, well, then all bets are off. I'm going to pick this game as if he's not going to play. So I'm going to pick Mars 14-7.
Okay. I got to think that if he does come back, maybe he's not 100%.
Probably won't.
That would obviously hurt that speed that he's able to bring to the game. So I'm picking Mars in this game. I think it's going to be kind of like last week's Seneca Valley game, slugfest, defensive slugfest. I got Mars winning 10-7.
Whoa.
All right, moving on to North Catholic. Just a few weeks ago, they had a chance to go down to Derry and make a statement, and they got the statement put on.
Yeah, they did.
They lost 27-0 to Derry. Now they got a chance to go down to Elizabeth Forward, play another undefeated team. This team's leading the conference now. Mike, North Catholic 5-1 at undefeated. Elizabeth Forward 5-0. How do you see this game?
Well, North Catholic, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, they've kind of refocused their offense. They're focusing a little bit more on the run. I think they got a little bit away from what they're comfortable doing. I think they were putting way too much on Zach Rocco. And I mean, it's understandable. He is a special talent, but I think they were putting too much on his plate. Now I think they maybe figured out, hey, we can't be doing that. So I think North Catholic's going to win this one. I think North Catholic wins 35-28.
John, North Catholic or Liz Forward?
I'll tell you what, North Catholic, if they win this game, they throw that's the section standings into total disarray. You'd have 3 teams with 1 loss and would probably stay that way moving forward. But I agree with Mr. Kilroy this time. I think you look at Elizabeth Forward, they're undefeated, but man, and to their credit, they won these games, but they've had some tight ones. 25-22 over Derry, 7-6 over Quaker Valley. They beat Freeport in a scramble, 27-21. You remember North Catholic really second to Freeport. I think North Catholic's probably the better team, and even though it's on the road, I'm picking North Catholic, and I do think their offense will pick it up for the second straight week. North Catholic wins 38-21.
I also like North Catholic. I don't think they're going to let a second opportunity go by the wayside. They have a chance to move into first place basically with this because Derry lost last year.
Yep.
So if they win, they jump back into first place. I don't think they let that opportunity slide by. 24-14, the Trojans go south and win by 10. Now we got Freeport at Deer Lakes. Deer Lakes, they got a decent record, 3-2, but the 3 teams they have beaten are really bad. Freeport's won 2 straight. The game's at Deer Lakes, which obviously that benefits the Lancers. But Mike, can Freeport make it 3 games in a row?
Oh yeah, they're going to make it 3 games in a row. This is that 0-3 start. No one wants to start 0-3. I think it really kind of gave Freeport a little bit of an identity, a little bit of a backs against the wall kind of mentality. So I think they're going to come out and they're going to win 27-14.
John, Freeport at Deer Lakes.
I like Freeport, but I think it's going to be a close game. Deer Lakes has one of those quarterbacks, and you see this trend now in high school football. These quarterbacks who can run and throw the ball. They've got one of those guys, and Aris Hazley or Hashley, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name, but this kid's thrown for 897 yards, 10 touchdowns. He's run for 232. They've got 2 outstanding targets, including a Division I caliber tight end who's 6'4", 230. going to be a lot for Freeport to handle on defense, so I think Deer Lakes is going to score theirs, but I think Freeport's turned the corner and they're rolling now. I don't see Deer Lakes really stopping Freeport's offense. Freeport wins this game. I'm going to say 31-24.
I also like Freeport to keep the ball rolling, win their third straight, 32-17 with a road win at Deer Lakes. All right, Karns City, 2-4. We just talked about them. To finish with a winning record, they have to run the table here, and they start off with a home game at against Kane. 1-5. Kane just picked up their first win a couple weeks ago against, I believe it was Punxsutawney. Kane obviously has fallen since last few years. They were one of the strongest teams in District 9. Now they're dealing with a 1-5 record. Karns City, 2-4. Home game for the Gremlins. How much of a chance do you give Kane in this game?
I don't give them a real good chance because I think Karns City just needed a confidence builder. I think they found that last week after the suspense of St. Mary's. I think Karns City rolls for the second straight week. I'm going to say the Gremlins win this game 35-14.
Like Karns City and Kane, how is it a close game in your mind?
No, it's not. It's not a close game. Karns City has cracked the code. After losing those tough games, I think I actually talked to Joe Sherman about this. He said he thinks it might be a good thing for them going forward because they faced about as tough an adversity as a team can face, losing those games the way they did. And now they know they can tackle any adversity that comes forward. Karns City has an identity now on offense. Hunter Jones is their main guy. They've also started throwing the ball a little bit better. And defensively, they hit really hard. They're very aggressive. And they've fixed a little bit their pass coverage schemes. I think they've figured some stuff out on that side of the ball. I think they roll 50-20 over Kane.
Okay, I also like Karns City. Man, I hate to have all these agreements here. I feel like
I know.
35-13, Karns City. I just don't see them losing at home to a Kane team. It's 1-5. So Gremlins beat the Wolves fairly handedly. Montauk is 3-3, headed to Brockway. There was one time this year when Brockway, I believe they were 4-0.
They dropped two straight, yeah.
They dropped two straight. Brockway hosting Montauk. Montauk coming off that tough loss against Brookville last week. Basically going up into the same area, Jefferson County. Do the Warriors come back with a victory this time, Mike?
Montauk is another one of those teams that I love following because they play the right way. They run the ball on offense. They hit big pass plays off the play action with Hans Nagy, and they play great fundamental defense. Their defense, I've been saying this all year, is a difference maker, but still, going to Brockway coming off a 2-game losing streak, they're hungry. I just don't think Montauk has the horses to come away with the win. It's going to be really close, though. It's going to be I think a 1 or 2 point game. I'm going to go 22-20 Brockway. I think Montauk keeps the score down again because their defense is so dynamic and so good.
John, Warriors win or no?
That's a tough game. It really is.
It's really a coin flip.
It is. I've been going back and forth on this game. I think Montauk can control the football against this team. Mike's seen them play a few times. You got Cody Wise, Nick Martino, Chance Nagy. All these guys can run the ball. They do play stellar defense. Brockway's got a good running back in Tyler Serafini. The quarterback throws for a lot of yards, but he's not consistent. He's wild with a lot of his passes, a lot of incompletions. He's been picked a few times. I think Montauk can use that to their advantage. I'm going Warriors to pull off what would be a mild road upset. I'm going Montauk to win this game 21-14.
See, the 2-game losing streak for Brockway, you can look at it one of two ways. You can say, okay, they're trending down, or they, maybe they have some injuries. I'm going with 2-game losing streak for Brockway, kind of lighting a fire under the Rovers. They're playing this game at home. I do like Brockway to win this game. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I see the Rovers winning 27-21. All right, a game we talked about earlier, Keystone and Union AC Valley.
Another good.
This is a game where Union AC Valley and Keystone have both proven one thing this year, and that is they are good enough to whack, and I mean whack, the really bad
Yeah,
teams
they
in
are.
District 9.
They are.
So you pair these two programs up, I think we're going to actually end up with a pretty decent game. John, 2-4, Union AC Valley. Do they get that third win hosting the Panthers?
I think they can. You got, as you mentioned, Keystone's 3-3, but they beat up on Sheffield, Cameron County, and Port Allegheny. Union AC Valley already played and beat up on two of those teams. They still have Cameron County yet to play. Keystone forced 6 turnovers last week, but again, it was against Sheffield. I don't think they're going to get those same breaks out of Union AC Valley. I like the Falcon Knights at home. Union AC Valley wins this game, but I expect a fairly high scoring game here. I'm going to say 34-27, Union AC Valley wins.
Okay, Mike, Falcon Knights. You go with Falcon Knights.
This is going to be one of the more entertaining games that we have, maybe all year. I think both these teams are going to put up some wild numbers in this game because I think they both are capable of doing that. So, but I think Keystone is going to come away with a victory. I think they're going to win 42-34.
Okay, I'm going to go with Union AC Valley like you guys. I think it's going to be a shootout. I see Union AC putting up nearly 40 points in this game. I got them winning 38-22. But, just want to pause here for 1 second and mention this is the third year for this program to be combined, Union AC Valley. They missed the playoffs the first 2 years of the combined program. Having 2 wins at this point in the season, still having a chance to get 3, 4, possibly even 5. Good job by that program. Good job by Brad Dittman just to kind of build that program up and, at least even be in the conversation when it comes to the playoffs.
And actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those first 2 years of that co-op, I think they only won 1 game each year.
I think that was 1-9. I believe you're right.
1-9
So
both years. So.
it's definitely a step forward for the program. Okay, moving on to a game that Mike is certainly going to be looking at. He deals a lot with Slippery Rock, and Slippery Rock this week is heading to Conneaut, a battle of 2 4-2 teams. Mike, Conneaut, I understand they have a good quarterback.
Yes, they have a very dynamic offense. Conneaut can put points on the board, but the difference in this game is going to be Slippery Rock's defense. So we've talked about them all year. Their front 7, 8 really very, very solid. And Slippery Rock's offense is really rounded into form. Vita Pelosi had a big game last week. First 2 passes went for long touchdown passes. Caleb Kammer had a big game. I think Slippery Rock's going to win this one on the road. I think they're going to put some points on the board, but I think Conneaut's going to dent the scoreboard a little bit too. I see Slippery Rock winning 38-24.
38-24. John, do you see this game being that high score?
I do, maybe not quite to that degree, but Conneaut, like Mike mentioned, they scored 48 on Meadville. They scored 60 on Northeast. They beat Hickory 26-10. They beat McLean in overtime. They scored 36 in that game. But here was the I was looking at their scores earlier today, and the score that really opened my eyes was Sharon rolled this team 48-14 last week. Sharon had to scrap and fight and claw to get out of Slippery Rock with a very narrow win. I know it doesn't always work that way when you compare scores like that, but I do think that's a major indicator of how this game is going to go. I see Slippery Rock winning this game. I'm going to say 31-20, Slippery Rock.
Okay. Slippery Rock endured those 2 straight losses a few weeks back, losing to Sharon and Grove City. Got back on track last week with that win over Titusville. I think they stay on that winning track this week. I know the game's on the road. That's certainly going to pose a challenge to Larry Wonderhughes and his boys, but 30-17, and like Mike, I see Conneaut's quarterback might be able to put up some numbers in this game, but I also think Slippery Rock's defense is going to come up with some turnovers. It's a stout defense, and I think they show it in this game, 30-17.
Another big thing about this game is as good. We've been talking about Slippery Rock all year about what a great season they're having. They're 0-2 in the region, so they need this win. They need
sure
this
do.
win. There's only 4 games in the region, so they need this to have a chance to even go 500 in the region. So they're not going to let that slip away. This is a winnable game on the road. They got to win this game.
Too good to let that happen.
Yeah, they're too good. They're too good to go 1-3.
Too good to let that happen.
And finally, the Battle of the Academies. Shady Side 5-0 at Summit Academy 0-6. John, is there a bright spot for the Knights at this point?
They have scored the last 2 weeks.
They have scored the last 2 weeks, and I think they'll score again. But it's bottom line is it's 5-0 versus 0-6. It is what it is. Shady Side wins big, 41-6.
Mike?
Tomlin power for the Shady Side Academy.
Yeah.
They actually on the Sunday night game they showed highlights from Shady Side.
Oh, did they? Did they?
Tomlin went absolutely nuts last week, and he's probably going to go nuts again. I think Shady Side. I hate to say it, Shady Side could name their score. I think in this game if they wanted to, but I think they'll win 42-8.
42-8, and I got Shady Side's just too strong. The game's at Summit. You got that when kids march in.
Yeah, that's right.
They got their suits on, and it's a pretty cool atmosphere for.
Yeah, anyone who's never been to a game at Summit Academy on a Saturday afternoon, it is a kind of a cool thing. The atmosphere is totally different there, and it is kind of a neat thing to see. But Summit just doesn't. The horses just aren't there for them this year.
Not this year. 44-8 Shady Side. I'm picking over
So
Summit Academy.
we have. John has them scoring 6.
Yeah,
He hasn't missed the
6,
2-point
right.
conversion,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think they make the 2-point conversion. Keep that 8 circle
All
out.
right. And now for our look at another sport this week, we're looking at the Freeport girls volleyball team. Mike, I know you talked to the head coach, and you have to be impressed with Freeport. I mean, they're coming off a state championship, but every once in a while they kind of remind you just how good they are.
Yeah.
Last week they go to Neshannock, who is the number 3 ranked team in the Whitbill, and they sweep them 3-0 by a combined score of 75-39. Mike, they lost some key components
Yes, they
from
did.
last year, but obviously
matter.
the train's still rolling this year for
It doesn't
Phil's
matter.
again.
For Freeport, they lose good players every year. It doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't matter because that program is humming along like a finely oiled machine. Tom Phillips has done saying he's done an amazing job. It doesn't even come close to even putting in justice the job he's done. I said before the season started, I think they're going to go back to the state championship game, and nothing they've done this year has changed that opinion. They just reload. They reload every year. They don't ever rebuild. Freeport is a juggernaut. Like last year, they may very well not even win the Whitfield, but could still win a state championship because this side of the state is that strong. Their one loss this season is to NA and defending 4A champion. So Freeport does have a big game against Knock, another undefeated juggernaut coming off of a state championship coming up here in a couple weeks. That should be an interesting match. But Freeport's they're just loaded. I don't see anybody upending them.
John, how much sting do these Jackets have?
They got a lot of sting, but their division, Freeport's here, everyone else is here. I mean, they're just head and tails above everyone else in their classification. They did lose some from last year's state title team, but they returned a lot of talent from that team also. And you look at some of their graduates, like Brittany Bianco went on to play BC3, was an outstanding setter there, and now she's having a great year for Point Park. Courtney Grubbs moved into the President's Athletic Conference. She was Player of the Week last week. So his players move on even to do great things in college. They're just a standout high school volleyball program, and I agree with Mike. They never rebuild. They just restack it and go at it again year after year. They're going to be hard to stop in the world, for sure.
They lose names like Claire Kreitzer, Hannah Mason, et cetera, et cetera.
They
even lost Jenna Mankey last year to soccer before the season even started, and they won a state championship.
They are loaded with players.
Now they got girls like Isabella Russo, who on any other team would have been a starter last year. She's finally getting a chance this year. She's having a great season. Ali DeJitis had a great state championship match last year with 20 plus kills. She's having a monster season. Claire Kreitzer's younger sister is filling in at libero, and Lauren Lampus's younger sister, Erica Lampus, they're kind of sharing that libero spot, not missing a beat. That shows you how good this program is. When they can lose an all-state player like Claire Kreitzer, who for 4 years was a dominant libero in that program, and they don't miss a beat with a freshman and a sophomore filling in those roles. It's amazing.
I'd be willing to bet that you could take Freeport's bench, let them form their own team.
That's a great point.
And compete.
And they would
compete
probably
they would finish above 500. They would be above 500.
No, not only that, I think it would be Freeport's 1A and Freeport's 1B team playing in the Woodville Championship. That's how good those
they are
backups
that deep and they are that good.
They're backup.
Yep.
Well, the big thing is that in practice, those backups and those starters go at each other constantly, and it makes each one better. That's why they're so good.
last year, one thing they were not able to do was win a Whitfield title. So you know that's got to be kind of a motivational tool for
absolutely.
Phillips right now. They lost to Beaver in the Whitfield Championship, turned around and beat Beaver in the state playoffs. So
See, sounds.
Freeport volleyball rolling again, and that will do it for us this week. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for tuning in.